just give a great appreciation for those veterans that are active and inactive. I think we're very fortunate here because, we get to work with one and Coach Ben Miller. And so we're extremely thankful for him, for anybody at this university that is a veteran, right? For everybody throughout the country that is a veteran. And we really, really appreciate their service. And so I know we got a game obviously coming up, but I wanted to show my gratitude and my appreciation only because my grandfather was in the Army, and he loved this country so much that he enlisted in the Army when he was 16. All right, you had to be 17, and so he lied. He lied on his paperwork, all right, and he enlisted at 16, which obviously gave our family an opportunity, gave him an opportunity to do what he did in regards to our family. So I'm just appreciative of that, and I just want to let you guys know before we get started, I'm just thankful for all the veterans, active and inactive, who have served for us. So without further ado, let's ride.
What'd you learn in your self-scout about your defense?
I think I don't want to give all the information out, but I do think it's advantageous that, especially as you move throughout the course of the year, right? Like being able to put different guys who may not be featured as much on other personnel groupings or early down personnel groupings, being able to just have packages for those guys, right? One, it excites them. Not only them, I think it excites the room in which they're in. Two, it gives you an opportunity to get fresh bodies onto the field. And three, right, it gives you an opportunity, you talk about building a program, right? Oftentimes that can come with some younger players or players who haven't played as much, and that can catapult them into moving forward as we move throughout the rest in the course of the season. We've been primarily sticking to the guys that have been on the field, but I guess the biggest thing I've learned is as we kind of progress throughout the season, some of our more successful packages were with guys who weren't featured in some of the main packages that we had. So that was probably the biggest piece of info that I probably shared with you guys.
With Dylan Rosiak, we know he's out for the season. What's the approach there at the Mike linebacker? Is it one guy you're looking at or by committee kind of thing?
Yeah, it is by committee. Dylan Rosiak is a very exceptional player. He solves a lot of problems via play call and his ability, right? And so I think anytime you suffer a loss in this capacity with your signal caller and your star Mike backer, it almost has to be by committee. But we got a lot of trust in the guys who were around him and behind him. I think Coach Archie McDaniel has done a phenomenal job in preparing every last one of those guys, right, for their opportunity, right? Ryan Mead has kind of been an unsung hero, right? He's probably played his best brand of football since he's been here, and so obviously with Rosie going down, right, we got Cruz. Cruz has been in there flying around doing some great things for us. You saw Malachi Hood, right, play a significant amount of snaps. You saw Kanena Odaluga, right, get in the game and get a sack. And so I think it's been by committee all year. It's just Rosie's been such a staple only because he's had a lot of career starts, and he's obviously a really, really good player. But when you lose a guy in that capacity and the way we lost him, I think that you don't necessarily have one person make up for his production. You try to have a core group of guys that can do that.
Aaron, after the first bye week, I was fascinated by the idea you said you kind of overthought everything and wasted some time that way. And I was curious if during this bye week you kind of caught yourself going, nope, that's not broke. I'm not going to try and fix it.
That is right. And I think it also helps to have a coach that's a defensive-minded guy. Right. And so, you take I think one thing about having 2 bye weeks is you try to take a look at the things that you've done and you had success at and assess those and you want to continue to utilize them, but you don't try to stray off very far from what you're doing. And so coming into this bye week, right, it's been a real big focus on what have we been able to do really, really well, right? What have we been able to not do so well, right? So how can we either get rid of that or tweak it, right, and the things that we didn't do well to kind of help and benefit us from a schematic standpoint, right? Is that rotating a specific player? Is that getting in another front that we've already had, that we've repped, right? Is that getting fresh bodies onto the field, right? And so it's been a lot of we actually work more during the bye week than we do during game weeks, to be honest with you, right? Because we spend a lot more time in the building just trying to crack those codes and figure out like what's wrong. And I'm so thankful because I got a guy by the name of Myers Hendrickson, who's an offensive-minded guy who's able to give me that intel and info, right? That being an offensive-minded guy, like this is how they've been attacking us. This is something that could benefit us, and here's a result of it. And so I do think it's been a very, very productive bye week, and I think at this point the guys are just ready to play.
What do you identify as some of the struggles getting off the field on third down?
Yeah, I think due in large part, right, is I think some guys have made some tremendous plays, right? As we watch the third down study, man. I mean, we've had some guys in some advantageous positions that have made the guys who they're lined up against have made some incredible plays. Again, I'm going to play strict blame on myself. I can do a better job in some of my play calling and putting those guys in better positions based on the scenario and the situation throughout the course of the game. You know, a game kind of flows, right? And when any play caller tell you when you're in the flow of the game, right, what you may have on that sheet, right, as a situational call for this particular area of the field, right, well, the flow of the game may not dictate that call. And so you can venture from that, you know, with the flow and the feel of the game. And so I in that assessment of our bye week study in regards to trying to get off the field, I think it's being mindful of and making the guys more mindful of one. You know, I think at the college level, I think oftentimes we try to categorize first, second, and third down as kind of like the same thing when really it's not, based on where you're at on the field. And I think, you know, via the NFL, like early downs is significantly different than third down. And so with that being said, I looked at our early down package, and I looked at our third down package, and they were eerily similar, right? And so when there's similarity there, right, naturally there's not a lot of difference. And so it's been a long conversation of how can we create difference on this segment, right? Whether we're in a certain situation on the field, and more importantly in third down in general, how can we create difference, whether it's front structure, right, but running the same thing behind it, whether it's personnel groupings. And so there's been a lot of detail and thought in trying to put guys in the right position in order to do that.
What have you seen out of Michigan State in particular, Childs, your quarterback?
Yeah, I think that dude is, you know, I know he got a lot of flack early in the season, right, for making some comments, but I think that young man is he is uber talented. You know, he's probably one of the handful of guys that I've seen make throws that, I mean, he has NFL arm and ability. Like, he made a throw, I think it was in the Michigan game, right? It was in the Indiana game. He was on a far hash, and he put the ball like 2 yards from the sideline, and it was a dart. I mean, his ability, right, via to run the ball or throw the ball is so unique and so different of anything that we've played some guys this year who've been really talented, and some of them just have really big arms, you know, or really intermediate throwers and can't throw the ball as well vertically, or they're good runners and they don't throw. Like this cat, I can see why, right? They put him in a position that they do, because this cat he got a live cannon, man, and anywhere he's at on the field, he can get it to any target, you know, and I think when he's comfortable back there in the pocket and he's in rhythm, you know, he's able to make a lot of those throws, and he's able to get them to, right, they got some really good talent around them, right? Those two running backs are as talented as they come in this conference, right? I know they got the freshman Nick Marsh, right? He's done a tremendous job for them, especially as of late, getting them the ball vertically, right? They got a set of tight ends and obviously the O-linemen, right? They do a tremendous job in the run game and trying to stretch the ball vertically. You know, it's obviously going to create a tremendous challenge, but I do think that they want to play Big Ten football, right? Like they're not trying to hide, right, what they're trying to do, which I love and I respect that so much, because it's like, this is what we're doing, right? Stop us. And I got a great appreciation for that. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, growing up in this conference and playing in this conference, right? It's like that old school Brett Bielema of Wisconsin style of play, right? Like, listen, this is what we're doing. We dare you to stop us. And I just got a great appreciation for it, and they're good at it. You know, and they play great defense and they do a good job playing complementary football, which puts them in advantageous positions on offense, right? And they got an overall good team, but I think that quarterback is a key piece to making them go.
What's
You Jaheim came in and played some good ball, made some good plays. So can you talk about that? But also, can you tell the teaching points of that play Daniel Jackson made on the sideline? Obviously, a really good play by him. What are the teaching points after that?
Well, it's you know, especially with young players, man. Like I wish that anytime a young player goes through something like that, right? Like you're able to show them that in advance, right? And which we have, and they're able to learn from it either via film, right, or some from high school, you know. But you know, that's the first time Josh played this that many significant snaps, you know. And you know, first and foremost, he came in and did a tremendous job, right? He was lining up against a cat who I think is damn good, right? I think that cat's gonna play on Sunday. But you know, he was in position, he was in phase, and he just strictly lost track of the ball. You know, like he got his eyes to the sky and he just lost track of the ball. And I don't think he realized that it was thrown to him, right? And so it was a great teaching moment for us because, you know, in the meeting the next day, right? Like I think anytime you line up as a DB, right, I think you always have to have the mindset, the ball is coming to me, especially versus a type caliber receiver that Daniel Jackson was or is, I'm sorry. And so I guess the teaching moment from that is you have to expect it, right? Even if it doesn't come, you have to expect it, right? And they had shown even like to slow down during routes and still catch the ball. And so it was really, really good. You know, I think 2 years ago, right, Xavier Scott was in that situation versus Purdue, right? And just like Xavier, he was heartbroken at the end of the game, right? And so John's gonna be a tremendous player. He's super, super talented. And those kind of moments, although we don't want them as coaches, right, they only propel a young man, right? Because I know he learned from it, right? I'm sure he learned from it, right? Because I was able to give him some correction. Coach Parker was able to give him some correction, but he came in and did some good stuff for us, and we're excited about his opportunity moving ahead.
What kind of goes into the decision-making process when it comes to bringing pressure as opposed to not putting guys on an island in coverage? Is that a tough decision for you?
Yeah, 100%. It's based on the flow of the game. It's based on tendencies. It's based on where they're at on the field, right? It's based on who you have in the game. You know, it's kind of funny because, like, you know, like I think we've conditioned our players, especially our secondary. If you were to ask them, hey man, what's your favorite coverage to play? 9 out of 10 of them would say 0. Like that's just how they operate, right? Because that's how we've conditioned them, right? So we don't want them to be afraid of one-on-one coverage with or without safety help, right? And so me as a play caller, right? Well, what is that based on? That's based on like where are they at on the field, right? It's the quarterback in rhythm. How do I get them out of rhythm, right? What's the personnel grouping, right? So a lot of those things kind of come into play, and I think, you know, especially as you move up and down the field where they're at, you have a pretty good feel for it. But just like every other play caller, they change their tendencies, right? And so you have to be able to change with those tendencies, right? They were, you know, ironically enough, when Ja had that ball caught on him, you know, in the first half, Minnesota on 2nd and long, they had been running the ball. Like they were primarily running. Well, when they in the first half. In the second half, on 2nd and long, they started throwing it, right? Specifically, they start throwing it vertical, which is like not normal on get back on track. It's typically, right, try to get half, right, some sort of screen game, right? Well, they had been chunking that thing down the field, right? So I had to make an adjustment, right? And my adjustment to that was I like man-to-man coverage. You know, he lost track of the ball, but with that, it's a cat and mouse game, and you try to base on the feel of the game and the flow of the game, and you hope that you give your players an opportunity as the game progresses, right, to understand the route concepts or the runs that they're getting, you know.
All right, thanks, Coach.